All right, good morning, everyone. My name's Amanda. I'm the program manager with Conservation Nebraska. So I first want to thank our partners, so Billy and the Crane Trust, and then Deb and the Edgerton Center for helping us put this together, giving us something fun to do on our Saturday morning. So I think we've got a good chunk of people in here. So we're going to hand it over to Deb. She's going to walk through a presentation. In terms of this live, you can kind of see there in the background of her video if you see it. She's got some live raptors with her. She's going to give us some great information. She does have a PowerPoint presentation. We're not going to do it today, but if you would like any of the information that she's going through live today in a presentation form, feel free to reach out to myself. You should have that email in that registration form, and I would be happy to forward along, and Deb is happy to forward along that presentation for you guys. So you guys aren't here to hear me talk, so I am going to stop and hand it over to Deb, and she will get started with us.
So you probably heard a little bit about me, but I'll just do a little introduction. So my name is Deb, and I'm one of our educators here at the Edgerton Explorit Center, but I also have other volunteer duties that I do. And one of them is I work with Fontenelle Forest Raptor Recovery. And Fontenelle Forest Raptor Recovery is a statewide organization that deals a lot with picking up and transporting injured raptors. It's throughout the whole state. We have lots of volunteers everywhere. And if you have seen a bird that is on the ground that is not normal, because most birds are going to be up in the trees or on the poles or whatever, and it doesn't look quite right, we have a number that you can call, and it is 866-888-7261. And that gets us to our hotline, and then we can send out someone to assess the bird or to pick it up and transport it to a facility that is out by Lincoln, Eagle, Nebraska, in that area. And that is where our hospital center is, where we take and rehab the birds and hopefully ready to be released back into the wild. So it takes a lot of people to cover the whole state, because this is the only organization in the state of Nebraska that is licensed to take care of injured raptors. And we'll talk a little bit more about raptors in a bit. On that, it takes money also to run that. So, you know, if you feel free, you can donate to our organization to help us cover the cost of some of the food and medical expenses too. Volunteers, like I said, like myself, we get a call, we go out and can take the bird, pick it up, secure it, and send it to the center. And then the good part is they get healed up, we're able to go back and release them back into the area. So their birds live in a territory pretty much, and they have their mate in that area. So we want to reunite them, and that way they can still protect their territory and their nest. So it's always a good feeling when we get them released. We've had over 20 some eagles, between bald eagles and golden eagles, that have been taken in so far this year, that have been found injured or sick, and not all of them have made it, of course, but we hope for always a good success. So that's a little bit about our Fontenelle Forest. I've been doing it for close to 7 or so years myself, and that got me kind of more interested in taking care of the birds and becoming an educator. So that has involved with the Edgerton Center, which I am one of the scientists here. So we do education programs with students, with school groups, family events, and I get to show up close and personal where sometimes birds are not the most easy to see when they're out in the wild. You know, they're up far on a post or fly away and you can't see them. So I have a couple birds here, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. each of them. So I think the first one we need to get out is start getting a bird, right? So we're going to go over here and first one here is our Swainson Hawk, Roy. Okay, so Roy, so Roy came to us as a first-year bird. So say he was hatched out in the spring, and he was found on the ground out west by Scottsbluff area, anyway, Panhandle area. And he was not very well. He was very skinny, and he had an issue with his wing. Can you see the difference in one wing and the other?
Yeah, the other one's little.
Okay, so we see that that feather looks a little different there too. So he had a broken wing there, and he also was very sick. He might have had what they call West Nile. Hard to say for sure, but he wasn't very well. So we took him in and put him in the rehab center. His wing did not heal right. You can see that it has a little bit of issue with the feathers. So he was not able to be released. So birds that are not able to be released, there's a couple things that happens. Either they become education birds, or if they're not able to be released and they're sick, then they have to put them down. Because they're a wild animal, they're not going to be able to hunt in the wild. So Roy, because he's kind of a cool bird anyway, and he has a good attitude, became an education bird. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about how we know the different kind of bird that he is. So we said he's a hawk, all right? All right, so we have a lot of hawks. If we see my chart over there, that one chart has lots of different hawks and stuff on there. Eagles, falcons, turkey vultures kind of fall in there, osprey. So there's a lot of different ones, different species. And they're all classified under what we say a bird of prey, all right? Birds of prey have specific things, all right? So if we're looking at my hawk here, Roy, what are some things that we notice about Roy that make him then a bird of prey? Some characteristics about him. What do we notice? If we look at him versus a robin hopping around on the ground, what do we see different? The what?
Way better.
He's bigger. Well, yes. What do we notice about his face, his beak?
His beak is
Pointed, curvy, very sharp and curvy. So a bird of prey has a curved beak,
so it can stab.
and also his talons. All right. So a bird of prey is to seize live animals. They catch them with their feet, and then they're able to tear them apart with their beak because it's pretty powerful. They also have keen eyesight. Okay. And like I said, they eat prey. So that's different than Mr. Robin that's going to go over here and eat a worm or something. Okay. So a bird of prey, and like I said, their eyesight. Have you ever been able to sneak up onto a hawk?
No.
Not really. They see you coming from a long ways away, and they'll fly away. So it's hard to catch a good look at them up close. So that's why we're going to look at him really close here. And let's see if we can get Roy to open his wings up a little bit for us. Okay. So that is a good way to identify him too, is their feather pattern. Now, in the raptor world, we can tell them apart between a boy and a girl by two kind of ways. One is their size, okay, and their weight. Now, he's going to look like a girl. We know he's a boy because of his size, all right? And females are bigger because they are the ones that are going to take care of the nest, the babies on the nest, or the eggs. The guys are going to go out there and help bring food to them and take turns on the nest a little bit. But the mom has to be kind of more the protector. Also, we know that Roy is a little over 2 years old because just like a bald eagle, they don't get their white head until they're into their fourth, going to their fifth year. Well, Roy, as a Swainson Hawk, they molt their feathers out. Well, he has got his new dark bib that has come in this last year. So he's pretty much now in the mature part of his years. Another cool thing about Mr. Roy here as a hawk is on my chart here, we'll kind of see this, I'll kind of show it up here. This is a map that shows the migration of our Swainson Hawk. Okay, I'll pass it around for you guys. You can take that. So a Swainson Hawk will migrate all the way down to Argentina for the winter. So they've migrated, or they're migrating through on their way to Argentina right now. In the spring, they will come back and they will even go clear up into Canada. So they have one of the longest migration paths of any of the birds that we have here. So he wasn't able to fly. He wouldn't be able to make that migration. So he became one of our education birds. And you can see he's a very nice looking guy, isn't he? Yeah.
Is he nice?
Oh, he's nice to me, of course, because I give him his food. So he doesn't have to go and hunt. He has a pretty good life. We made some nice houses for them, and he gets his meals every day. He don't have to go out and hunt, and he has to just put on a good show for my friends. Yeah. Okay, some other questions that we have about Roy, why I have him out? Anybody online there that has any questions?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Yes.
Does he live in Aurora now?
He lives here. Yeah, he lives on the facility. So a little bit about getting the birds that I can have. Not everybody can have a raptor, all right? They're a protected species. You can't just, like you have your dog, or you can't have a parakeet or whatever. You have to have a permit. So even for our transporters that go and pick up injured birds and stuff, we have to have a permit that says that we can have them in our possession and transport them. Just because you can't even have a feather, just because you don't know where that feather came from. You might have had that bird too. So they're protected. So I had to have a permit. I had to build their houses specifically for them that meet their size requirements and stuff. So all that permits are required to have a bird. And then it has to be approved by Fish and Wildlife. Okay.
You can have like those birds at Kestrel.
Yeah, some of those parakeets and stuff. Yeah. So in my training, I had to get some hours of training to help handle the birds too. I just couldn't say, I'm just going to take him and have him, and he had to get used to me. So it's kind of a long learning kind of process between Roy and myself. Yeah. Any other questions that we had? None?
So Peggy asked, how many hawks do you have at your facility?
I just have the one hawk. Okay, I have other birds, but they're a little bit different. So this one hawk, and we have many hawks that are in Nebraska. Red-tailed hawks are here all year long. All right. Some of the hawks, like I said, migrate, like he's going to migrate. We have Cooper's hawks, sharp-shinned hawks, broadwings, and Merlins. Well, Merlin is different. But we have lots of hawks, and some of them migrate. So coming up for winter, the rough-legged hawks live up in Canada and Arctic, and they migrate down as far as Nebraska, and they will stay here during the winter. We have other hawks that will migrate on south, like Roy doesn't stay here during the winter. So it's kind of, they move in and out. They don't stay here all the time. Yeah.
Like you said, the raptors hawks migrate. That one's not going to be able to migrate.
No, he stays here. And so I have to kind of make sure that during the winter time, because he's not a real cold weather friend, that if it gets really cold, I bring him inside. And so I have a place for him, like if it's having a blizzard or whatever, that he can stay inside for a bit and warm up. Just like we have to put on our winter clothes and stuff. Well, this is all he has right here is his feathers. Okay. All right. I'm going to put Roy up and we'll check out somebody else here.
That he's there. The middle one. Wow.
Oh, we really didn't talk about what Roy likes to eat. I mentioned mice. Right, but as a hawk, when he's migrating, and I talked about he migrates through here kind of at the end of harvest season, and the farmers are picking their fields, and there's a lot of grasshoppers and stuff out there. They like to go out there and sit around after a field has been picked, and they will eat a lot of grasshoppers before they fly on. So our birds of prey are actually kind of very good at pest control. Like he'll eat mice and stuff too. So if you have a problem, you might want to have a bird of prey around. All right, we're going to jump over here to this young man. Yes. Oh, there we go. He likes to announce himself. He likes to talk to us. Yeah. All right. Can you take a guess at what this is? Anybody have a guess? No? No? He's not in the hawk family. He's something different. We'll get him up here close. Get a peek at him. So let's think about, we had hawks, eagles, owls are in there, falcons. Falcons. So we heard of probably the peregrine falcons, right?
Yeah.
He is an American kestrel, and he is the smallest in the falcon family. He is. He falls in that category. And we're going to kind of look a little bit closer at why he is in the falcon species. Okay. So looking at, and his name is Ted. Okay. Say Ted. And Ted came to us as a youngster because they nest in tree cavities. All right. So these guys can build nests, but he nests if you have a hollow in the tree. His tree got cut down and when he was just a baby. He hadn't been able to fly yet. His other siblings were able to get away. He was stuck in the cavity. The guy was cleaning up the tree and he found Ted in there and he had a broken wing. So unfortunately, it had already kind of started to heal. So his wing, as a falcon, you have to be really good flyers. He's not able to fly around, but the kestrels are really a cool bird. So he's probably about 8 years old. Yeah, so he's middle age, right? Because they can live 12 to 15 years old. He can probably live 20 some years. And especially when they are in captivity, their life is a little bit easier. They don't have to go out and hunt. They don't have to challenge their territories and stuff. So their lives are a little bit easier. They can live a little bit longer. So our kestrel here in the falcon family, falcons have specific characteristics. Not only do they have the curved beak and the sharp talons, but if you notice anything about his face, what are we looking at his face? Right around his eyes. You see that? What do you think?
I think like the black stuff around it helps him see his like it helps his eyes and it doesn't like he doesn't get much sunlight in his eyes.
Okay, that is good observation. So those black stripes, like a football player or a baseball player, when they get that smudgy stuff, that helps with that bright sunlight. So when he's hunting in the daylight, he needs to see good. Those black stripes help reflect the sunlight so he can see very good. All right. Now, another cool thing about him is his beak. We're gonna see two things on his beak, okay? And first I'm gonna show them and then I'll show you guys, all right? So we're gonna get up here and if we can look closely at his beak, all right, there we go, and look in his nose. Now, he has a little thing inside of his nose and his beak has a little bit of a notch, so it comes before it goes to the point. All right, now we're gonna go over here so you guys can see it too. So look at his nose and see his beak, how he has a little kind of a notch before it goes down. Yes. Okay, let's sneak over here. So you can see that little notch on his beak. Okay. And then the little thing in his nose. Okay, so two things about that. The notch on his beak is to help when he catches his prey. I know. And you're telling them, aren't you, that you're pretty special. So the notch helps when they like catch their prey, that just will snap like the spinal cord of the mouse or something. The little things in his nose are, so when he's flying really fast, peregrines do a stoop and they can fly 200 and some miles an hour. The peregrines stoop down to get their birds. He doesn't fly quite that fast because he's a little guy, but he still can fly up into the 70s miles per hour. So if you were to stick your head out of the car window and you're driving, how hard is it for you to breathe? Kind of takes your breath away. Those little things in his nose act as little baffles, which help keep the air from rushing into his lungs so that he can still breathe when he dives and catches his prey. Okay, so that's pretty cool about falcons. All of them have that. Now, I said he's the smallest one. He looks kind of like a robin, doesn't he? Yeah. The males are more colorful. The females are a little less colorful. So these two have a little bit of different. Most all the other birds, the males and the females look alike except for the size. In the kestrels, he looks a little bit more colorful. She's more protected, camouflaged. And let's see what else. Oh, he has some really cool things because he's little. If he was down on the ground eating and another bird was circling around on top, looking down, look at the back of his head. Do you see something that looks like he's looking at you?
Mhm.
Those two black spots back there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if we can see them up here. Maybe. Look up here. Okay. So if those two little dots look like eyes, a bird flying around might think that he's being spied on. So it's kind of a little extra protection for him on the ground there. Okay, so what do you think he eats?
Like little, like probably like big insects.
He does eat insects. He'll eat locusts, grasshoppers, and he will eat mice.
Dinosaurs?
Maybe butterfly. I don't know, butterfly, but and the insects a little bit. And I feed him just mice here. Now my food comes frozen from a company, so I don't have to raise their food.
Nice.
So I can have them here, and I just get them out and thaw them out for in the morning for them to eat. Let's see, what else about Mr. here? Any questions about him? Yeah.
How old is he?
So he's like between 7, 8, somewhere in that range. I just got them like a year ago, so he was in a program before. So trying to think back of when they got him. So he's around 8. Any questions that we have pop up yet?
No, not yet. No.
Okay, well,
How many times a day do you have to feed?
I feed them once, so they get their food in the morning, and that holds them over for the day. Yeah. Birds have a crop, so they'll eat and get kind of full, and then just like when we talk about an owl pellet and stuff, they still will expel a pellet too, because not all things are digested. Sometimes bones and some of the feathers or fur, they can't digest them, and so they will spit them out in a little pellet. Oh, this is a cool thing about him. Just thinking about the way he's holding himself here. If he was sitting on a wire, our birds look a little bit different when they're sitting on a wire, how they hold themselves. He will sit and bob his head a little bit and flick his tail. Okay. Now, if the wind is blowing and the wire is really wiggly, but he's looking specifically at something, let's see if we can get him to focus here.
His body just wobbles.
Okay.
Same thing.
Kind of like a little swivel, doesn't it? So he's focused, his body's moving, but his head is still focused on his prey. Let's see here. Sometimes a sideways one. Okay. Yes. Now their eyesight is a little bit different than our other hawks. They can see in a ultraviolet type sight. So if we are looking at a little mouse is crawling, running around, and he goes to the bathroom, he would be able to see that glowing pee as it ran around. Just like CSI when they spray the luminol and stuff, they can see in ultraviolet. So that kind of helps them track their prey a little bit more. Any other cool things about our little guy?
Billy asked if they migrate.
No, our kestrels live here year round. They are native to Nebraska, and that's why they live in the little cavities of the tree. So if we are cutting down trees, we need to really kind of be careful of, there might be little critters living up in there. He lives in a little house back here, so his nest is kind of a little hut, and you can actually make online, they have kestrel houses, so you can put up a kestrel house at your place if you want. Yeah.
So like if like when he migrates, he'll just come back in the spring.
Yes. Yes. So when they migrate, they usually go back to the same area that they were probably raised in. So they stay kind of in that area. They'll make a new territory because he's not going to, wouldn't go back to where his mom and dad are. He will make his own territory. But they do come back to the same area that they were raised in, find another little spot, and then make their way. So let's see, did I show? Yeah, we'll kind of show this one here because this is the range for the American Kestrel. All right, you guys want to see this? So it covers pretty much all of North America. Yes.
Does the call that it makes, does it use it for defense against the
His
predator?
alerts that, yeah, he was kind of telling me that, you know, he's a big guy and I was messing with him. But they have other calls. He was calling to his mate or whatever. It would be a little bit different kind of call, their communication.
So we have a follow-up about
Yes.
diets and wonders if they eat squirrels.
Not this guy. No. The red tails are notorious for squirrels. Roy probably wouldn't even go after a squirrel. He goes after maybe a little chick of some kind, you know, a little duck or little chickens, hen, like maybe pheasants or some little birds like that. Not very big. And he's mainly just going to be a vole, a mouse. And I have to say, knowing a little bit about them now, when I give him 2 mice a day, sometimes he will eat the mouse right away, the one, and then he will take the other one and store it in a little cubby hole up in his mew. And I'll go out there and maybe part of it's ate, but he has it tucked away, hidden till later. So if he doesn't want to eat it all right now, he will save it for later. Yes.
How much does he weigh? Can you even feel him on there?
So he weighs, and I just weighed him like 160 grams. Yeah. He weighs close to 2 pounds. They're a lot of fluff. And you know, and that's their insulation. So they have a lot of their feathers and then their downy stuff underneath to keep them warm. Now, if you notice between Roy and Ted, their legs, and we'll talk about that with the next one. So they have scales on their legs. We'll talk about the owl in a little bit, that they have feathers. Okay. So let's say we're done with Mr. Kestrel. Okay, let's put him back up here and he will give me a holler again, I'm sure.
I don't want to go back. I want to call it more.
And the jesses that we have on there is just kind of like if you're walking your dog, they're just a little leash to make sure if he would get off, that I can have control of him. And so the jesses just snap around their legs. They're not tight or anything. They just kind of move around nice and easy. Anybody see this guy sitting back here?
Yeah.
You have. I thought he looked pretty camouflaged there. He looked like he's got his eyes kind of squinty, like you're not going to see me.
Like he's really still, like he hasn't
moved too much, has he?
No, I've only seen him tilt his head about twice.
That's about the loudest he gets. Okay, so we're going to talk about this guy. Is he a baby or is he an adult?
He's an adult.
He is an adult. Okay.
Babies are the same size like that.
All right. So this is an eastern screech owl. Okay. And he is full grown. And we don't really know his age because he came into our center, and like most all birds, they're full grown as soon as they fly off of the nest. Okay. So it's not like you guys keep growing and growing. Once they are able to fly, they're as big as their adult. Okay. So we really don't know how old he is. But he came in with a broken wing. So we can kind of see that this wing is a little bit droopier than the other one. It broke in a different place. So these guys are flying in amongst the trees. They can hit windows if they're chasing something. So it's kind of hard, you know, they get something broken. So his was broken up closer to his body. Like they have the same kind of bone as ours. They have a wrist and an elbow and a shoulder. They just kind of turn them a little bit differently than how our arm works, but they still have the same kind of bones there. And of course, it didn't heal well enough for him to fly. So he's a very nice colored bird, right? Question.
We at our old house we've had they looked like owls. There was a boy and a girl, but they were trying to. They saw their reflection, but they're pecking at the window.
Oh dear. Yes.
Oh,
Oh. Well, I actually had a nesting couple in my backyard. So eastern screech owls are native to Nebraska, just like the kestrel, and they make their nests in the hollows of the tree also. So you never know. I mean, if I was to go out there and look, like he was setting here, and if he's setting up in his branch in the tree, look at the camouflage that he has with the bark. And when he would close his eyes, when he was setting up there nice and skinny, it would be very hard to see them setting up there, right? So they're very camouflaged, but they're in town here. Probably a number of them, and they're good bug catchers. So they will catch insects. I know they go for the summer lightning bugs. They catch the mice and stuff too. So they're good to have around also.
like
Yes.
what's this?
Oh, this one. Guess. It's really cool because I got to kind of name him. We call him Doc. Doc. Doc Edgerton, the Edgerton Center. Doc is kind of just for the center, plus he looks kind of cute that way too. So an eastern screech owl, all right, we're going to talk a little bit about him. Owls are a little bit different, like I said, than the other raptors because these guys are awake at night. So I've woke him up. He's supposed to be sleeping right now. So he's like, what are you doing? So this is their nighttime sleep. He's awake at night and they hunt at night and they are very silent. Owl feathers, and I have some examples of them up here. Here's actually one of, we'll just kind of pass them around. Here is each one of the feathers. One is Roy, the two are from the kestrel, and the little one is of Doc. And you can kind of look at them, feel how soft the owl feather is. Take them all. There you go. So owl feathers are very soft. They're kind of serrated on the edges. So that makes them very silent flyers. So when they're flying at night, they can sneak up on their prey and you can't hear them. And plus, they have feathers clear down on their feet. We're kind of look at those really close there, the other ones. So he has feathers that clear down on his toes. there. And that also helps to keep him quiet when he's flying. That helps cut down the sound when they're flying. Now, one thing I kind of like to look at, because he's kind of looking at me, but you see on top of his head, what does that look like? Ears. So you think he has little ears up there? No. Horns?
They like to help him like fly through people.
Well, so they're kind of just an alert thing to make him look big and ferocious. They're really just feathers. They're just feather tufts, for a better term. And his ears are located right in the dark line around his face. Okay, so right from his eye, they're located, one maybe a little bit higher and one a little bit lower, and they kind of point in the direction of where the mouse is running, so they can kind of see them, hear them. So their eyes and an ear, they kind of triangulate where the sound is coming from. And then that's how they can hunt too. Now, their face, most owls have, on my chart over there, you see they have kind of like the disc face. So that disc face helps them direct the sound into their ears, okay? And our owls have such big eyes that they don't move. If he needs to look around, he has to turn his head. So we can do a little example with that is if you look like you're gonna look like binoculars, put your hands up to your eyes, put them both up there, okay? Now you're looking right at me, all right? Now, I'm going to be a human and you guys are gonna be the owl, okay? And we're gonna look over to the wall over there, okay? I'm looking and I can see that orange dot. What do you guys have to do to see that orange dot? Turn your heads. Yes. I can turn my eyes from side to side. The owl's eyes are so big and they kind of look like an orange. They're kind of oblong in there. They can't turn their eyes. That's why they turn their head. And we can kind of see that as a human, our heads turn about like this. So we can look over one shoulder on the other shoulder, all right? Okay, now as an owl, they can't turn their head all the way around, but they can turn their head like 270 degrees. So they can look clear back over there and clear back over there, but without turning their head. So let's see if we can get Doc to turn his head. He's gonna look at me. Look over here. I can't turn my hand. Well, so anyway, it's a good turn to look around. Oh, there he's kind of looking back. Oh, he kind of saw the hawk back there. Don't get me. All right, so they can turn their head pretty much that way. They just have a little bit more vertebrae in their neck that make them able to turn their heads a little bit more. That's about all, but nobody's going to be able to turn their head all the way around. Okay, eyes, ears, feathers. What other things do we want to talk about? Question?
What does the owl eat?
He will eat mice. He will eat some insects. I know sometimes we do the owl pellet dissections, and that gives you a good indication of what they are, because like I said before, they can't digest all the bones and some of the feathers, so they will form a pellet and expel the pellet, and you can dig around in there, and sometimes you can find insect shells, sometimes little feathers, skulls of different kind of mice, shrew, there's voles and stuff that they hunt. Yeah, their feathers are very, very soft. If you felt that one on there, they're very soft. Keeps them very quiet when they're flying. Now, all birds have what we call 3 eyelids, all right? So they have the third eyelid, like we have 2 of them that go up and down, and a third one is called a nictitating membrane, and it goes across their eye to kind of help protect their eye when they're flying, but they can still see. Like if we're flying and we close our eyes, we can't see, right? So if they want to blink and they still want to be able to see, they have that nictitating membrane. All right, let's get a close-up look again at Doc there. So you can see if he blinks his eyes. There we go. Take a look there. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if he would fly, you wouldn't be able to hear him. They are pretty silent flyers. All right, we have any questions about Doc?
Peggy wants to know, just in general, are the rodents alive when you feed them?
No, they are all, what I want to say, grown healthy at a company, and then they are euthanized safely, and then they ship them out to me all frozen, and then I just take them out each day and thaw them out and give them. So they're pretty good about being used to non-live food, and especially in the rehab center. You know, it's hard for a bird that is sick to even have a live mouse too. So sometimes we have to cut them up. Sometimes you have to give them fluids when they're really sick also. So little tiny bits and pieces are easier for them to digest also. So this guy weighs just about the same amount. He weighs just a little bit more than the Kestrel. Now, looking at him, his body is a lot thicker. Ted, the Kestrel, is a little bit more slender. So he's a little bit chunkier that way, even though he looks shorter. Yes?
It looks like he has eyelashes.
He does have eyelashes. You want to see them up close? He has pretty eyelashes. If he will blink.
Everybody stares at me.
You see them?
See, like you can close one and not.
Yeah, he blinks in between.
So it's probably just still out of vision on the right, so it doesn't exist.
So his beak, yeah, when we talk about his beak is kind of hidden in those feathers around his beak. Like I said, those feathers help direct the sound. They're kind of bristly around there. And so if he hears things, that sound comes in. So his beak looks kind of small there, but if he opens it, it's pretty good size. All right. Any other questions popping up yet? Any other things that I need to discuss? We can look at some of the stuff that I have up here. So I'm going to put Doc back on his perch here. Okay, and we are going to show you a little bit about, well, we'll listen for a screech owl, all right? So this has got a lot of different calls on it, and the screech owl name does not make his call, all right? So we're going to listen to what a screech owl sounds like, and you might recognize it if you're out in your yard. You might hear them.
Why is it called a screech owl?
Well, I don't know who named him, All right, so here is our screech owl.
Doc was looking at you.
Doc? Yes, did you hear me, Doc? Let's listen to that again. What does that really sound like?
Sound kind like someone doing like a flute or something.
The flute? Has anybody been around horses?
Yeah, it sounds like a horse's neigh.
It does sound like a horse whinnying, doesn't it? When he kind of calls out, it's kind of like more of a horse than it is an owl. Now the barn owl, we have a barn owl over there. The barn owl sounds screechy. It hisses and screeches a lot. This is a barn owl here. And they migrate down into Oklahoma and stuff now during the winter. They don't stay around here either. All right, so let's, Roy, should we hear what your friends say? Because we already heard what Ted talked about. So let's listen to what a Swainson Hawk sounds like. Kind of screechy, huh?
He's not looking at
I know. And when he's talking to me, he gives me kind of these little soft little whinny calls or whatever. So the difference when he's alerting, this is an alert call versus just their communication call. So yeah, he's like, who's talking? That isn't what I say. All right, so I have some cards here too for our Fontenelle, our Raptor recovery. It has their number on it, a little bit about our information. Fontenelle Forest does, like I said, rescue, rehabilitate, release, and educate. So that's what our program deals with. I have little cards if you want one too. I have a special card for me here. And then we have some different feet, all right? So these you can look at up close. These are screech owl feet. You can see the feathers on them. Here's a great horned owl, and we'll just kind of see. So the difference in the feet up close, how big and powerful those talons are when they seize their prey. And per square inch of pressure, they will go through my gloves. Take a look at those, pass those around if you want. Look at those little ones. The difference between, so those are owl, and this one is a little Cooper's hawk. So you see the difference between the feathers on their legs, their scales, versus the owls have feathers all the way down on them, and how sharp their talons are. So this is a Cooper's hawk, so it's a smaller one than what we have there.
Little cats.
They're little, well, so when they're perching, that's just, like our foot pads and stuff. Yeah. I mean, Roy has them too, his little pads here on his feet. So when I talked about owl eyes, these are bones of their eyes. So their eyes set in these little bones, and that's why their eyes can't move, because they are set in these bones. So just think of an eyeball setting in there. That's what their eyes set in. And when we're talking about red-tailed hawks, okay, this one is a red-tailed hawk feather. When they get a couple years old, they mold out their feathers, and then it comes in as red. So that's what this one is. All right, the difference between a hawk and an owl, okay? So an owl wing and a hawk, red-tailed hawk, all right? You can feel the feathers on here. All right, so you can get a really good look at how soft and how their feathers are out there. There you go. Oh yeah, that one's a hawk and the other one is an owl. That one's an owl. So feel how soft that is compared to the hawk. And if you were to flap them, the hawk would make a little bit more noise than the owls. Here, here. So listen to the owl. You can't hear it. The hawk would make a little bit more flappy noise. Okay. So while we're passing that around for these guys to see, if there's anything that our guests online have that you want to ask again, feel free to chime in. I'll be more than happy to try to answer those questions. We have some time left. If not, Amanda, I think we're good.
I think we're good. No, got anything in yet.
Nothing yet. So I just want, in closing, I want to thank you for joining us, and hopefully it's been educational for you. I'm sure when we close this out, if there's any other questions that come up, you can still email anything in or chime in and stuff, and Amanda will get it back to me. We can keep in contact that way. Okay. Feel free to stop in sometime and see me here at the Edgerton Center. And if you want any programs, we can set something up to come out to your place and do any programs also.